Ladies and gents, welcome to CG Reaction. This is Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor, Extra History Part 4 by the channel Extra Credits. The Iron Chancellor, so he's gonna do something here that's gonna give him that nickname apparently. Bismarck turned up the heat on this long-term plan to unite the German Confederation under Prussian leadership. He allied with Austria to seize a piece of disputed land, then maneuvered them into a war that he decisively won. Damn. Even an assassination attempt could not stop him. So I guess Otto von Bismarck's whole life goal is to unite German states. And I guess, Austria says, I guess. He did unite German state. He did create it, I guess, Germany. Now, I'm pretty sure the way the series is going on, I guess he is the reason why Germany became the country, that we know today. From Prussia to Germany, I guess it's because of this guy. But I guess we'll learn as the series go on. I guess there is 6 part of this series. I thought it would be like 3 or 4, but no, it's 6. This is the 4th part, 2 parts still remaining. Alright, it's gonna be fun. Remember people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the reaction, there's a link in the description. Check out the cast whole playlist like history. All the history videos I've created, it's in the playlist. Check out the playlist to like only sarcastic production, CGP Grey, Tier Zoo, oversimplified internet historian. And yeah, let's do this one.
It is go.
Oh, forgot to switch the audio. Alright.
It is go time in Bismarck land. Bismarck had a list, and he was checking it twice. Action item number 1 on that list? Steamroll some Danes. 16 years prior, in 1848, Prussia had invaded Denmark with the hopes of annexing the largely German-speaking duchies of Schleswig and Holstein, but the threat of international intervention had sent them packing. Now it was time for revenge, or at least a very pragmatic seizure of territory. You see, the Danish king had just cacked it.
I guess after what Napoleon did, all the powers in Europe must be in high alert. Anybody try to invade any place and they're like, what you doing there?
And as basically always happens when a European king checks out, his death left everybody scrambling over the succession. And in this case, that scramble was played out between one staunchly Danish branch of the family and one sympathetic to the Germans. When the Danish group won out, they decided that it was high time to rule Schleswig and Holstein directly, to finally incorporate them into the Kingdom of Denmark, not to leave them as semi-independent duchies with their own weird rules and privileges. This violated a treaty the Danes had signed with the Prussians, though, and gave Bismarck his chance. But it also made things tricky. After all, if Bismarck used ideas of liberating the oppressed and defending smaller nations' rights to justify invading Schleswig-Holstein, he'd have to find a really good reason for sticking around to occupy those places himself, instead of just leaving again. He had been setting up these dominoes for—
knowing Bismarck so far, I think he can come up with some kind of hokey plan. I don't know, like how he could basically, influence some of the politicians there, local politicians of those places, to come out and just say that we support Prussia now. We see ourselves as part of Prussia or something. He could make that happen. I don't know.
For a while, though. There would be no repeat of the last time when they had to flee due to other powers coming in on the side of the Danes. He had already secured the friendship of the Russians, and made vague promises to the French that they might see some territory out of the whole deal if Prussia was allowed to absorb Schleswig and Holstein. And without Russia or France, Britain would protest, but they'd never actually go to war on the Danish side. He had also suckered in Austria, convincing them that they were all on the same side.
That is so true, isn't it? Britain and France is not really friends, if the history we see it. Russia is not really friend of France or UK either. Obviously, they are going to work together, but if, Otto von Bismarck basically can secure France and Russia somewhat support from them, Britain cannot just go to war, because that would just give France and Russia excuse to go war against Britain, I guess. Like, oh, wait a minute, you can see that we are supporting him, and yet you're still trying to go to war. So I guess that is smart. I guess 2 out of 3. So, 3 major powers of Europe just, secure 2 fronts. Enough. That's enough.
Germans defending Germans and all that. He even convinced them to be allies and contribute a horde of troops to the effort. And this is key. Not only did he need Austrian troops to secure a quick victory, but it would also make them complicit. If, after they won, he said that Prussia was going to take territory, the Austrians wouldn't walk away without their share, which not only meant that European public opinion wouldn't turn against Prussia, but also meant that he wouldn't lose the moral high ground in the German Confederacy. And his plan worked perfectly. The combined Prussian-Austrian forces rapidly...
Damn, he's, really clever in this sense. I mean, bit of an asshole clever, but still. He saw that, obviously he hates Austria. He wants to go to war with Austria, but he also realized that, in order to do that, and in order to take these places, he can't be alone. Otherwise, he'll be vilified. So he's like, screw it. I'm just gonna, kill two birds with one stone. I guess I'm just gonna, take Austria with me. I'm gonna be their friends temporarily, I guess, and make them complicit. Then I will have a chance to, take over places, to, basically play the people too, and I guess somehow go to war with Austria.
Overran Denmark. The Danes had to grant the independence of Schleswig and Holstein. Bismarck made some ludicrous demands, and the Austrians, not wanting to be left out, eventually caved to a compromise that left Bismarck exactly where he actually wanted to be. Prussia would keep Schleswig, the Austrians would get Holstein, and he would get a small pile of other minor concessions to boot. But Bismarck was always a man of large appetites. He didn't come all this way to only get Schleswig, and so part 2 of the plan commenced. Operation Make Fun of Austrian Incompetence. He played up everything that went wrong in Holstein, and talked openly about it being a breeding ground for revolutionaries. His sound and fury brought the two nations to the brink of war, but both of their monarchs wanted to avoid such a conflict between brothers.
What the hell? I mean, all the strategies he could have used, that's what he used. Basically, split the two places between them and, just criticize the Austrian part. And put, magnifying glass on every issues here and there. Obviously, Austria's gonna go like, why you, amplifying everything that is happening there? You're basically insulting us. Obviously, that's gonna result in somewhat, friction there. And he wants friction. I mean, if you think about it, if you want war, I guess there are lots of different type of things like this you could do that, basically increase the tension. It's way easier to increase tension between two states than, I guess, decrease it.
Wilhelm accepted the possibility of war, but forbade Bismarck from explicitly goading the Austrians anymore. But Bismarck's work on that front was already done. He had a backup plan in case war didn't come. Bismarck always had a backup plan. But he spent most of his time trying to shore up alliances, to make sure that Prussia was ready for the fight his king sort of didn't want. First, the Italians. Victor Emmanuel, the man trying to unify Italy, desperately wanted to take over Venice, which was in Austrian hands. I mean, how can you have an Italy with no Venice? But he was never going to have the strength to fight Austria alone, and so Bismarck seized on this, getting him to agree that if Prussia and Austria went to war, the newly formed Italian kingdom would join in for only the small price of one Venice, which Bismarck didn't really want anyway. Next, the French. While not publicly successful in securing the French as allies, Bismarck was dealing with Napoleon III here, a man too clever for his own good by half. Napoleon III, who saw himself as the equal of his famous uncle, but really wasn't, took the only course of action that would get him nothing. He wouldn't support Prussia, but he wouldn't support Austria either. This was just fine by Bismarck. Finally, Bismarck...
I mean, Napoleon III is not even close to the original Napoleon for one simple reason. I didn't even know there was Napoleon 2 and 3. So yeah, and Bismarck just basically went to that guy and it's like, I've got some radical ideas here that you're gonna like. Don't support Austria, but you don't also have to support me. And he's like, don't support Austria or Prussia. I guess that's different. I'll do it. And Bismarck just, walked away like, what a blithering idiot.
Kept pressure on Austria, having Prussian officials meet with Romanians and Magyars, Czechs and Serbs, any ethnic minority within the Austrian Empire, all in order to make it look like he was building allies and raising legions of revolutionaries ready to revolt the moment the Austrians went to war. But Bismarck's plans were interrupted by one thing he did not factor in. As he walked down the great boulevard Unter den Linden, 2 shots broke the quiet. He whirls. A young man stands before him, revolver in hand. The 51-year-old Bismarck grabs him. 3 more shots ring out as they grapple. Finally, soldiers run up and subdue the young man. As the assassin is hauled off, they check Bismarck for wounds. One finds a hole in his coat, and follows it to find a hole in his waistcoat, which, with some trepidation, he follows to find a hole in Bismarck's shirt. All 5 shots had hit, but every one of them had either only grazed him or bounced off of his ribs. In a moment that history doesn't...
Wait a minute, bounced off his ribs? How is that possible? Won't the ribs be broken there? How did it bounce off his ribs? What his ribs are made of? I mean, seriously. How much calcium did he eat?
Record, but I think we all know happened. Bismarck simply nodded to the soldier, said, "Iron Chancellor," put on shades, and walked away, refusing to...
Which is the show? At this CSM Miami, right? There was a guy whose name I think I forgot. The main guy with the glasses. There's his thing, right? He gives one-liners. He wears glasses, then gives one-liner, and then the intro music starts, and that became a thing. I don't know why I'm imagining him doing that. He puts on says like "Iron Chancellor," and just the music plays, and he walks off.
Let one measly assassination attempt get in the way of a good war, Bismarck went right back to work getting the German-speaking world to tear itself apart. And as rumors swirled, the Austrians felt they had to make a move, so they called the Pan-German Diet in Frankfurt to decide the issue of Schleswig and Holstein. The Diet moved against Prussia, but this played right into Bismarck's hand. The moment the Diet came to their decision, the Prussian representative read a statement that Bismarck had prepared for just such a moment, declaring the Diet invalid and the German Confederation dissolved. Now it would be war. It would be the northern German states and Prussia against the southern German states and the Austrian Empire.
Damn, that is something, isn't it? I mean, obviously it plays into his hand. If the, whatever, meeting or whatever they just had, if they go, the result is against Prussia, he can basically rally up his own people. Like, see that? They are against Prussia already and things, this and that. So he was prepared for that already.
Hundreds of thousands of men were mustered. It could have been a long war, but now the king had in his service a general as capable on the battlefield as Bismarck was in the conference room, General Moltke. The uncle of the General Moltke who will so disastrously lead the German forces into the First World War, this Moltke could not have been more different from his nephew. He was one of the first to see that the modern rifle had made the idea of the frontal charge obsolete. He grasped the importance of railroads for mobilization, and realized that modern armies were too big to be commanded by one man, that plans should be flexible, and subordinates should be allowed to take initiative within them. It was this Moltke who famously said, "Plans never survive contact with the enemy." Moltke led a lightning war, crushing the once great Austrian Empire within weeks.
I guess he took something from Napoleon. I guess that's what Napoleon's idea was with the corps system and the marshals. Like marshals could take their own decision if needed.
And now, where Bismarck had once had to work so hard to get the king to go to war, their success had been so great that he had to work equally hard to get the king to stop. Bismarck realized that they could only push so far before the other great powers stepped in,
Seriously.
and all of the work that he had done would be undone. More still, he believed that once he had eclipsed them, he might need the Austrians to serve as a balance against one of the other great powers, so he must not impose on them a peace that would leave them hating Prussia. So Bismarck called in his erstwhile and
I need to hear that again.
push so far before the other great powers stepped in, and all of the work that he had done would be undone. More still, he believed that once he had eclipsed them, he might need the Austrians to serve as a balance against one of the other great powers, so he must not impose on them a peace that would leave them hating Prussia. So Bismarck
So he wants Austria on his side if the other great powers basically, rise up to balance things. While at the same time he was, literally, insulting Austria, trying to go to war against Austria. This guy has balls, right? I mean, I did not see that coming. I mean, I thought, his plan's going to be hate Austria for now, even if it, serve his, even if it doesn't hate Austria, it serves his needs, so hate Austria, I guess. But I never thought his basically plan would revolve around that, we might need Austria again, so let's not, hammer them too hard. Damn.
Called in his erstwhile enemy, the Crown Prince, the same Frederick Wilhelm who he had so unsuccessfully tried to put on the throne as a toddler, and put him to work reining in his father. Fritz, a lover of peace despite being an excellent military commander, convinced the king to accept the deal that Bismarck had on the table. Prussia would take over most of northern Germany. The German Confederation as a body would be disbanded. Their Italian allies would get Venice, and Austria would forever be banned from any pan-German parliament, or from meddling in German affairs. Oh, and weirdly, Liechtenstein became an independent country, so that also. All in all, things were looking up for Bismarck's grand project of uniting all of Germany under Prussian rule. There just loomed one more obstacle, one great nation that, although neutral so far, would oppose any further increase in German unity and strength. There was the problem of France.
Okay. So I guess he's gonna go against France next time. Damn. So, man, seriously, all the people have ambitions in their lives. What am I going to do in my life? Even that people don't achieve. This guy has balls so bigger. I mean, when he was younger, he was just like a your everyday, I guess, college playboy type of guy who was just doing whatever he wanted. Just wild man Bismarck. Then he got older, his ambitions grew. Now he's playing countries. His vision of unifying Germany, he did that shit. And his visions are ridiculous. I mean, it's not just everyday, just the politics that I'm gonna do this and do this, all the sensible politics that's gonna lead to this unification of Germany, and you could applaud that like, oh, he was smart. No, his ideas are really out there and actually works. I mean, it's ridiculous. And also, he got shot 5 times and just walked off. His bullets bounced off of his ribs. That is still effed up, man. I feel like this history, I guess he deliberately I guess changed some of that there just to show to the public how strong Bismarck is, but I'm pretty sure his ribs and everything would be broken. He just didn't want people to know that, just to show this kind of image like Iron Chancellor or something like that. Yeah, this is awesome. Alright people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the lyrics and there's a link in the description. Check out the cast, check out the end cards, and I'll see you next time.